All right, everyone. Welcome to the Society of Thoracic Surgeons General Thoracic Surgery Database monthly webinar. Today is Wednesday, August the 14th. So thanks for joining, everyone. On the call with me today from the STS side, we have myself and Carol Crone, Emily Conrad, Nancy Honeycutt, Ruth Raleigh, our GTSD consultant, Addie Dolan, Banu Yakutsi. I told you, Banu, I was going to mess it up, and Paul Meehan. So thanks for joining. Sorry, Banu. I'll get it
All
right.
is good.
I just practiced it too, like 10 times right before we got started. But anyway, one day. All right. So for the agenda today, I'm just going to provide some brief STS updates. And then Addie Dolan, my colleague, is going to introduce the STS Data Manager Collaborative. I'll give some fall 24 reporting updates, and then I'll turn things over to Ruth Raleigh for a quick educational update. And then we'll finish things today with Q&A. So I know, again, the harvest close is coming up, so I want to give you guys the opportunity. I know we have several new data managers, so I wanted to give you the opportunity to ask any questions that maybe we can assist you with prior to harvest close, anything we can help you with, kind of ease your mind, anything we can help you with. Please be sure to put your question into the Q&A. Also, we do have the raise hand function enabled. So if you would like to just ask your question instead of typing it out, please raise your hand and we will unmute you. Just ensure that your microphone is enabled on your end. All right, so let's go ahead and get started for the STS updates. Our July training manual was posted. That is the current, those are the most recent updates that have been posted and that are available at this time. Ruth is making a few more updates to the August training manual, and that will be posted no later than the end of this week. So that will be posted by Friday. As I just stated, the fall 24 harvest close is scheduled for Friday, September the 6th. That harvest will include surgery dates of July 1, 2021 through 6/30/2024. And this will be our first report containing all version 5.21 data. So this will be our first report with just that 5.21 data. That 2.41 version dates will be falling out. So the opt-out date for the fall 24 harvest is September the 10th. I just want to take this time to encourage you. The deadline, the last possible time to submit your data is September 6th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. Please, 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 please do not wait until September 6th at 11:58 or 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. to submit your final file. Please do your absolute best to get that data in prior to that deadline. Inevitably, something does happen. Every harvest it happens. So again, we just encourage you to please get that final file submitted prior to that deadline. A week prior to the deadline would be great, but we understand sometimes that's just not possible. But if you could get it in at least a day or two prior to that deadline, it would be most beneficial, just in case something does happen, and inevitably something always does. So with that, I'm going to turn things over. STS has launched the STS Data Manager Collaborative that is now open. We are now accepting, I guess I wouldn't say applications, but Addie's going to go into more detail about the Data Manager Collaborative. So I'll turn things over to her and let her introduce this, the new collaborative to you all. So Addie, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Leanne. Hi, everyone. You may know me if you've ever needed to update the contacts for your site. I just wanted to quickly remind you before I get started that the annual contact update is approaching this fall. It will be for your annual bill. So it'll be really important to make sure that all of your surgeons and billing contact information is updated with us. If you have any questions at all about how to do that, how to add surgeons or remove surgeons, how to find out who your billing contact is, please feel free to reach out to me at stsdb@sts.org. And I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. But what I'm excited to talk to you about today is the Data Manager Collaborative. As Leanne said, this program is now open. You may know it by its former name, its previous name, the Data Manager Mentorship Program. we have relaunched the program and we're pivoting towards a more collaborative approach where you don't need to be an expert to be involved. We're transitioning away from the traditional mentor-mentee relationship, and we're ultimately hoping that this will be a supportive network for you to ask and answer your pressing questions related to STS data abstraction. So on the STS website, we have put together a list of FAQs, including the benefits of participating in the program. Participating in it will provide functional support for your role. You'll be able to ask and answer questions related to data abstraction and create new connections, build your network, and be part of a professional community. Also on the website, we've put together a list of questions that you could potentially expect to ask and have answered by participating. So these are going to be questions like related to your workflow, such as what are the general rules of data abstraction? How do I collaborate with my surgeons and how often should I meet with them? Or education questions like what resources are available to me and where do I find them? So those are just a few of the questions, but we have a whole list put together for you. So if you're interested in signing up, we'll have you complete a short sign-up form. It'll ask for your name, your email, your database component, and a few other factors such as your software vendor and your EHR. We'll go ahead and try to match you as closely on all of those factors. And once you're matched, we'll follow up with you to introduce you to your match, who you can then contact and determine how you would like to meet, how often, if you want to do ask your questions by email or over the phone, or if you want to do a Zoom call. So just whatever your preference is there. So the last thing that I wanted to note is that if you did participate in the Data Manager Mentorship Program, we would like you to submit a sign-up form for the Data Manager Collaborative, just so we can re-add you to our list and get you paired up again. So if you have any questions at all about participating, about the sign-up form, about what the information that we have posted on our website, please feel free to reach out to me at stsdb@sts.org, and I'll put that information in the chat as well. Thank you, Leanne.
All right, thanks, Addie. We appreciate it. And it was a great presentation and about the new program. We're super excited about it. Addie and team have been working very hard to get this this program off the ground. So again, we really do encourage you to sign up and start making those connections, and just another way to have a valuable resource, have valuable resources and support within the GTSD. So again, highly encourage you to get signed up for that program. All right, as I talked about in just a little bit ago, AQO, as you all aware, is coming up soon, September the 11th through the 13th in Nashville. And AQO registration is open. Our General Thoracic Day will be held on the 11th. And if you are sticking around in Nashville for a day or two, or you will be attending the ACSD component on the 12th, if you're there in person, we will have a networking event on that Thursday evening. So we would love to have you join us on Thursday evening for networking. Again, we will be in Nashville at the Lowe's Vanderbilt Hotel. So we do encourage you to get registered. Also, if you will be joining us, get that housing reserved as soon as possible as well. And we look forward to those, that will be joining us in person. Look forward to seeing you. For those that will be joining us in person, again, we do have the virtual component available this year. So just a reminder that the virtual component is not a live stream. So the presentations in Nashville will be recorded and uploaded to the virtual platform after the live meeting. So that will be available for you after AQO. Prior to the start of AQO and during the live sessions, the on-demand presentations will also be available. They will be available on the virtual platform, so you can go ahead and start reviewing and watching the on-demand sessions. And if you have any other questions about AQO, just let us know. We can get those answered for you. So we are looking forward to seeing those. That will be in Nashville. And for those of you that are not able to make it to Nashville, we'll see you on the virtual platform, and then we'll see you at the post AQO webinars. Also, just a little shout out. We don't have. I know people have asked where the meeting's going to be next year. We don't have any agreements, contracts signed yet, so we can't announce where we'll be next year. But we are moving. Just so you know, moving to all in-person meetings. So next year will be all in person. So just keep that in mind. And we look forward to sharing more information with you once we have more information that we can share. So again, we look forward to seeing you guys in Nashville. And then also for those on virtual, we'll see you virtually on the post AQO webinars. All right, we do still have, we had asked previously for some PFT reports and some pathology reports for AQO for presentations. So if you are able to share a PFT or specifically pathology reports, I think we're more in need of pathology reports, Ruth. I think that's what Ruth had stated. So if you have some pathology reports, please share those with Ruth. We like to have multiple examples. So as we all know, not all pathology reports are the same. So if we could have several different examples to share, that would be great. So again, if you have a PFT or a pathology report, more specifically pathology, please send those over to Ruth at Ruth Raleigh at sts.org. All right. The next thing that I wanted to cover, we have several fall 2024 reporting updates coming down the pike. So I have covered this on a previous webinar, but we do have several new data managers joining the webinars, and welcome to you all. But I did want to go ahead and just circle back on some of the fall 24 reporting updates that we have discussed on a previous webinar. So as we've talked about, the biggest reporting update that we have is implementation of the revised risk models, the resection for primary lung cancer and the esophagectomy for primary esophageal cancer. The lobectomy for lung cancer risk model will no longer be reported out. And the main, reason I think I saw a question, why have the lobectomy composite measure been discontinued and now replaced with resection composite measure? The resection composite measure does include both the lobectomy and resection. So I think Dr. Cedar is doing a presentation on this at AQO, so he'll be able to provide a lot more detail on the revised models. But the resection does allow us to have a little bit larger population, which is always best for running the models. Carol, anything else you wanted to add on the?
No, I'll just say, no, I think you did a good job. I'll expand, of course you did a good job. I'll expand on the larger populations, allowing more cases into the risk model will allow for a better assessment of the site's performance for their quality improvement initiatives and overall for the STS data. So lobectomy is a subset of the lung resection model. So it'll just be a better indicator of how the site's performance and STS national averages and things like that.
Right. Thank you, Carol Crum. And also, again, the lobectomy for lung cancer composite risk model will no longer be reported out, and that is getting replaced with the resection for primary lung cancer. The lobectomy legacy reports that you currently have within the IQVIA platform, those lobectomy legacy reports will remain. So you will still be able to get some benchmark data for those lobectomy procedures. The current STS and NIS comparison outcomes currently use the lobectomy population. We will be moving over to the resection population. So we'll have the STS and NIS comparison outcomes using the resection population now instead of the lobectomy population. Also, one other very important fall 24 reporting update is that we are removing the required fields criteria. So what does that mean? So if you just at a glance at the data collection form, you'll see there are many variables that are highlighted in blue and underlined, and they're listed as required fields. So the required fields were initially implemented in the beginning of GTSD due to many issues with data completeness. We had a huge issue with data completeness once the database originally began. So the GTSD task force decided to implement this required fields criteria. So if a record had missing data for one or more of the required fields, the record was not accepted into analysis. And again, an example of these variables would include primary payer, TIN, tracheal data, hiatal hernial data, et cetera. So if some of these variables were not answered and they had missing data, then they would get excluded from the risk model. So looking back, it seems kind of crazy that if a record is missing TIN, for example, then that entire record was excluded from lobectomy, resection, or esophagectomy. So the GTSD task force reviewed the required fields and made the decision to remove the criteria, beginning with the fall 24 analysis. So, and of course, as I just stated, it seemed crazy that many records, were being excluded from models for missing some of these required fields that had absolutely nothing to do with the actual, model variables. So they decided to align with other STS databases because the ACSD nor the CHSD has this required fields criteria. So GTSD task force decided to, align with other databases and remove these required fields criteria. With some of our other databases, we do have specifically for congenital, for example, we do have risk model variable missing data thresholds. So for example, in our congenital risk model, if you're missing 20% or like 10% of some of the pre-op factors or things like that, your data is excluded from the risk model. Right now, we don't have any of those specific risk model missing data variable thresholds in addition to our current 2% mortality thresholds. So right now we do not have any risk model variable missing data thresholds. GTSD task force is discussing it, but at this time, we do not have any required fields missing data thresholds. And again, the only thresholds that we have are our minimum case. You have to have at least 30 resection eligible resection records and 15 eligible esophagectomy records. And then also we have our 2% mortality missingness threshold that must be met. One of the questions that I've gotten a lot about the required fields is if these are no longer required, do I still need to collect these data? So yes, per your STS contract, you agree to collect complete and accurate data. And most importantly, some of these required fields are risk model variables. So please, even though these variables will not cause a critical error when you're submitting your data, please ensure that these patients, to ensure that your patients are being analyzed with the appropriate risk, you want to continue to collect this data as completely and accurately as possible. As I mentioned, these data, when they start coming in, you will no longer receive critical errors. So our next step with IQVIA is to update these validation checks. So these critical errors and warnings, IQVIA is currently working on updating these errors and warnings. So once this update does roll out, we'll give you, obviously we'll notify you, give you a heads up of when these updates will be implemented into the IQVIA platform. And always regarding these updates to the fall 24 analysis, the analysis overview documentation will be updated to reflect these reporting changes. The overview that's currently posted out in the IQVIA library corresponds with the spring 24 report. So prior to releasing, or actually probably in coordination with release of this fall 24 report, that analysis overview will be updated to reflect the analysis that that has occurred with the fall 24 report. So again, the analysis overview documentation will be updated and posted to reflect these reporting changes that corresponds to your fall 24 report. And just for, as we are getting ready, you know, for the fall 24 harvest to close, I wanted to, you know, work with you and ensure that since these models are being revised, some of the risk model variables have slightly changed. So I wanted to give you something to help guide you in your data cleanup. So for the resection for primary lung cancer, as you can see with the revised model, nothing has changed from the current model in terms of the primary categories of disease and the primary procedures that are used for the resection for primary lung cancer model. So again, nothing's changed from the current model to the revised model in terms of category of disease and primary procedure. Now again, some of the variables have been revised, and I just gave a quick list that you could use as a guide to help you when you're cleaning up your data for this harvest close. I've given the short name of the variable that is included in the model, as well as the sequence number. I did not, in this slide, I didn't go into more detail about the parameters for each of these variables. Those will be included in the analysis overview. So there'll be more detailed information in the overview, but just in terms of cleaning up your data, hopefully you can use this as a guide to ensure that you don't have any missing data for, you know, these variables. Ensure that your data is complete and as accurate as possible for these variables. So we have age, ASA, clinical staging, and pathological staging, the combination of both. Too many sequence numbers, so I didn't pull in the sequence number here, but the clinical staging and pathological staging. Your last creatinine DLCO predicted low, ECOG, FEV-PRED, gender, height, history of cardiopulmonary disease, history of cancer. Oh, I've had this one in here twice, sorry about that. The renal disease, pre-op meds, substance abuse, vascular disease. This one's new, primary, payer prime, payer second. This was not in the previous model. Then we have our primary procedure, race multi, re-op status, surge date, and weight kilogram. I think weight kilogram is new also. So again, when you're within the IQVIA platform and you're working through your missing variable report, I just encourage you to kind of prioritize your data cleanup based on the risk model variables, and then just go from there. So again, just a guide for the resection for primary lung cancer revised model. Also, you'll note if you've been within, you know, in the IQVIA platform, within that missing variable report, at this time, unfortunately, there is not a filter for risk model variables. IQVIA is working on an enhancement to add a filter for risk model variables for that missing variable summary. So hopefully in the spring 25 harvest, while you're entering your data, that filter will be available for you, and that'll additionally help clean up the your workflow and your process a little bit better, help make it a little bit more efficient. A esophagectomy for primary esophageal cancer, again, in the revised model, the category of disease has not changed, and neither has the primary procedure. So again, just throw these on the screen here. Again, this is in the current analysis overview, but again, no changes for primary category of disease or primary procedure in the revised model. And again, just as in the resection composite, I've included just a list of the short names and the sequence numbers for the esophagectomy for primary esophageal cancer. And again, I'll go into more detail in the resection and the parameters and the overview. So it'll be a little bit more detail provided there. All right. And that is all that I had from the STS updates and the revised risk model thing. Again, just circle back, just to go back to the revised risk models. Again, Dr. Cedar will be doing a presentation on the revised models at AQO. So he will definitely be going into more detail about the model revision, parameters, and all the technical details. So he will be going into that and providing more information for you at AQO. So we really do look forward to his presentation. And then also more information, will be available in the manuscripts. STS will be sending out a formal notification because I know we've had many questions about this. Are you going to notify our surgeons? So yes, we will be sending out a formal notification, hopefully within the next week or two, to our surgeons as well as the data managers announcing, these fall 24 reporting updates, the discontinuation of the lobectomy composite and the implementation of the revised models. So if your surgeons were at the STS annual meeting in January, Dr. Cedar did present on this, so some of them may already be aware. So if they caught Dr. Cedar's presentation, which it was a packed house in that room, then they probably are already aware of this. But again, STS will be sending formal documentation, as I know you like. We definitely need to have that in writing so you can share with your surgeons, your administrators, and everyone that needs to know. So that will be forthcoming. All right. So Ruth, I think you're up next.
I am. I'm looking at the questions in the chat, and a lot of them are technical questions. Do you want to do the technical questions before my presentation, or do you want to hold them to the end? Up to you.
Okay.
I'm flexible.
Let's see here. We can let's try and do some. I don't know if I can answer technical questions about the
It looks like Nancy is wondering if anyone has IQVIA reports that they're sharing with their surgeons. I don't know if anybody has insight on that one, or
no idea.
Karen.
I don't know, but Nancy, if you want to put your email in the chat, if you want, or in the Q&A, and people can contact you directly if they have something they can share it with you. I have no idea. I think that would probably be best. If you're okay with that, feel free to put your email in there, and then we can actually just move it over to the chat, and then people can just email you if they have any types of reports that they share. But yeah, we can go ahead and
I think I was just gonna, this is Carol, sorry for jumping in. I think what I've seen a lot of sites do, Nancy, is print out the we're having a hard time getting surgeons to log into IQVIA. It's not part of their workflow. It hasn't been, so they usually depend on one of the data managers to share, somebody at their site from quality to share the IQVIA reports with them. And so what I've been hearing from sites is that they print out the PDF report and bookmark or do something like that to identify the areas that the surgeons are most interested in. So that's that's what I've heard a lot of sites do. Nancy, what have you been sharing reports with your surgeons when you came from the hospital?
Yes, we shared reports. I shared most everything, downloaded it for them, emailed it to them, and then gave it to them in presentations.
Thank you.
Nancy, say two. So we have two Nancy's now. Nancy, say two. I put your email in the chat. So everyone, Nancy's email is in the chat. So if you have any types of reports that you share with your surgeons out of IQVIA, if you just want to reach out to her directly. All right, let's see. Yeah, we can take some other questions. Let's see. I use IQVIA direct data entry and know that my files will be pulled automatically that are done. Will I get a confirmation that it was successfully pulled?
Actually, I could
Paul,
speak
go
to
ahead.
that one. Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't think
yeah.
so. I don't know. I'm not gonna say anything.
If you're doing direct data entry, then your data isn't actually pulled into a file and submitted. It's just already in the database. As soon as you hit save, it's in the database. It's there. So when we do analysis, we just take a snapshot of the entire database, and that's what the analysis is done on. So, if anybody gets a report, you'll get your report. The only thing that would keep you out of the report is if you opt out. And so that's something that you have to actively do, fill out that form and submit it for the harvest to say you don't want your data included. Other than that, if you're doing direct data entry, it's already there. So it's actually one of the advantages of direct data entry. There's no harvesting. So
Awesome.
yep, no problem.
Thanks, Paul. Let's see, question from Lee. A facility started the GTS registry at the beginning of 2023. Facility was looking at the risk adjusted dashboard and noticed there's no information or numbers under eligible procedures for lung cancer resection composite quality rating details. Is this because they have not participated for 3 years? Honestly, instead of trying to, I would rather, if you could have this facility, submit a question to the help desk. So that way we could go in and look at their report and see why they don't have any data. So if you could email stsdb_helpdesk, I'll put it in the chat, sts.org. Have
And it-
them, yeah. Paul.
Yeah, and Leanne, and it is likely if you're new, there's a good chance that you didn't have enough cases within the time period to be able to be included in the analysis. So that's likely an answer, but do go ahead and email help desk and we'll look into it, give you specifics.
Just confirming, Leanne, help desk has an E in it, correct? I think there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
O in your, okay, I just
Oh,
wanted
sorry.
to. No, it's okay.
STS. I can't spell today. Help desk at sts.org. All right, try that again. There we go. I can't spell. It's all right. Thank you, Ruth. Do you want to take this question from Cassie, Ruth?
Cassie, we can save that until we do the clinical
Okay.
questions. I do want to share the training manual to answer
Okay.
that question though.
All right, yeah, sure. Let's go on to the next one. To Nicole, will PFT requirement go away as well? So if I think PFT is listed as a required field, but it is also important to note that, let's see here. So for the PFTs, FEV, just note for the risk models, they're still risk model variables. So FEV pred is a risk model variable. So is DLCO pred low. I think this one's new for resection, I believe.
Yes.
Is new. So even though it's no longer a required field, it is very important that you do collect this data to ensure that your patient, the patient is assigned the appropriate risk for risk model adjustment. So even though it's not required, you won't get a critical error moving, once IQVIA implements the updated validations. You won't get a critical error. You'll be, if you do direct data entry, you'll be able to save the record without that PFT, that required field, but it's still super important. I think you'll get an error message stating PFT is missing, or, one of these variables is missing. Please, please complete, or please review, something like that. So it's still super important that you still collect that data to ensure that patients are adjusted appropriately. Why would the analysis overview not update prior? So right now the analysis overview, again, it corresponds to the spring 24 report. I will get the analysis overview updated prior to the release of the fall 24 report, but generally the overviews that are posted that are out there correspond to that report release. So if I put it out there now, and if somebody goes back and is looking at their spring 24 report that's posted now, things would be different, and not all of the inclusion and exclusion criteria may be the same, so that may just cause more confusion right now, having an updated analysis overview that doesn't correspond with that report that is currently sitting out there that's available. Let's see here. Carol, I think actually this is for you. So there's an STS adult cardiac risk score webinar scheduled for tomorrow. I believe this was first scheduled 2 months ago. I wanted to confirm, is that webinar still happening?
Oh, no, this is for Paul. This is for Paul. This is a vendor asking about.
Oh, yeah. No,
Okay.
the vendor call is on, but
Okay.
that is just the vendors. That's not for data managers.
Okay,
And
all
just
right.
so you
Yeah.
know, when Emmanuel put that in there, I spent the last 10 minutes trying to figure out what webinar I scheduled that I forgot about. But there's no CSD webinar tomorrow. This
It's like
I
panic, anxiety. I know.
Yeah. Thanks, Emmanuel. Appreciate it. I'm like, I literally started sweating. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was ready to call Emily. What did we do?
I know. I looked at my calendar too. I was like, what?
Uh, we're all just going a little bit crazy. It's all right. So the next question from AH, will the new risk model change presentation at AQ be an on-demand offering? So it won't be an on-demand offering, you know, it won't be available prior to the start of AQO, but that live presentation by Dr. Cedar, our GTSD task force chair, it will be recorded. And then post AQO, those recorded presentations will be uploaded to the virtual platform. And Emily, how long does it typically take for those live presentations to be available within the virtual platform?
I'm gonna say 2 weeks.
Okay.
Because we get a cut from the AV people and we make sure it looks all right, and then we upload it to the platform. So I'm gonna give us 2 weeks there. And for those that'll be in person, that presentation's at 11 a.m.
Awesome. Perfect. So you will be able to see, and then also post AQO, we have our post AQO webinar. I think it's usually in November, December. So Dr. Cedar will be coming back for that post AQO webinar. And if you're looking, you know, you watch the presentation, the recorded version, you have questions, save those, write them down. Dr. Cedar will be available post AQO webinar to answer them live and in person. So, see, Jody, is it possible for IQVIA to implement some sort of flagging or warning system for DDE missed fields upon saving the record? So,
You kind of already have that.
yeah.
The required fields, you can't save it without,
Yeah.
well, you can't save it as complete without
Right.
having those fields specified.
Right. So when IQVIA does the validation updates, I think you'll be able to save the record, but I think you'll get like an error message,
Yeah, you'll get a warning.
a warning. Yeah.
Or it'll just be in the MVR.
Yeah, the missing variable. Yeah. So, all right, Ruth, I think do you want to take these last two, or do you want to move on to your part of the presentation and then come
I'll do
back?
my part of the presentation. I'll try to move fairly quickly so that we have time for some questions.
Okay.
So these are the July FAQ updates, which should be on the STS website. Sequence 1620, clinical staging methods. That was just a cleanup to align the text in the upper portion of that sequence with one of the FAQs that was published in November of 2022. There was a little bit of a mismatch. So we just cleaned that up there, is all that was, not a big change. Sequence 1800, lung cancer tumor size. If a patient is giving chemotherapy for a coexisting cancer unrelated to the lung cancer being treated by thoracic surgery, this is not considered neoadjuvant therapy. So imagine a patient with like parotid cancer and lung cancer at the same time. They're given chemotherapy for their parotid gland cancer. That's not considered neoadjuvant treatment for the lung cancer because it's given for a completely other reason. You are going to report the largest tumor size in sequence 1800 prior to the surgical resection, even if the lung resection is completed after the chemotherapy for the non-lung cancer. So recalling that if it was neoadjuvant therapy, you would take the size from before the chemotherapy was given. But when the chemotherapy is given for a completely different type of cancer, you're just going to record the largest size that your lung tumor ever was prior to surgery. Sequence 2100, lung cancer pathology margins. So one of the really messy parts of this version of the training manual is patients that have synchronous primary lung cancers that are resected in the same trip to the OR. And we look forward to making that much, much better in the next version. That's one of the priorities that's at the top of the list to figure out how to clean up. But for now, if you have a patient with multiple lung resections occurring for synchronous primary tumors in the same operative encounter, and the margins are positive for any of the resected margins, you're going to code yes to sequence 2100. And really what we're trying to get at with that sequence is the patient's expected outcome. And so their expected outcome will be different if they have a positive margin than if they have completely negative margins. So we're sort of rolling them together and summing it, which is tough when you are like we are, and we like things to be much more precise than they can be in this version. Sequence 4030, surgical site infection. Do not automatically capture a surgical site infection for a patient with an esophageal leak that has been captured in sequence 3920. A patient can have a leak without meeting the definition for SSI. And we are all aware that the definition of SSI is extremely lengthy in the training manual. So review that in detail before you say that your patient has an SSI. If you want to go to the next slide. I am excited to announce that the General Thoracic Surgery Database is going to begin its quality improvement series. So the Adult Cardiac Surgery Database kicked off their first QI series back in April of 2023, I think. Harold can correct me if I'm wrong. But their initial project was to reduce event times for isolated CABG patients. And now it is our turn to participate in the quality improvement series process. The project that we have selected for our database is readmission for minimally invasive lobectomies for clinical and pathological stage 1 lung cancer patients. The secondary metric that we're going to look at is length of stay, because obviously you don't want to reduce your readmission rate by creating an exorbitantly long length of stay. The high-level goals for these quality improvement series are to show the value of the database outside of generating reports and star ratings, really looking at decreasing costs to health systems and patients, the costs of care delivered. We want to be able to make the data that we're collecting actionable. We want to be at the front of this national team effort and really highlight the importance of our roles as data managers. So the STS will be pulling together data, like baseline data for this project, and we will go from there. Do you want to go to the next slide? We have a kickoff call describing this project in detail on August 29th at 3 p.m. I don't believe that appointment has yet been sent out, but it will be sent out shortly.
Yeah, it will be coming out. And then also before we go to the task force slide, just also if anyone, if you have a quality improvement project, or you've done one at your facility regarding the readmission rates, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have you present on the future webinar. It just doesn't have to be, strictly just for minimally invasive lobectomy. So if you've done a readmission, quality improvement project at your facility, please reach out to me. Again, we'd love to have you share on our upcoming quality improvement series, share with the other data managers so we can, learn from each other and have you highlight, what you're doing at your facility on the webinar. So again, please reach out to me directly, and please, we would again love to have you present on upcoming webinars. All right. Anything else to add? Ruth, did you want to add?
Nope.
All right. Okay.
Task force to do. So there are a large number, well, not a large number. There's a reasonable number of questions in the FAQ inbox that are related to 3 topics that some of them after multiple conversations at the core group have been deemed topics for the task force to take up. So the structure is the core group is a group of data managers and 3 to 4 surgeons who meet once a month. The task force also meets once a month, but is entirely made up of surgeons, and I don't know about the 15 surgeons on that group, maybe, Leanne, would be my guesstimate.
Yeah, there's more, yeah, but typically we have between 15 and 20 that attend that are, available to join the calls each month.
And so Dr. Cedar leads as the chair of GTSD, he leads those calls and sets the agenda for those calls, works with Leanne to set those up.
Yep, Dr. Cedar.
Yep. When the core group is unable to come to a conclusion on a question, we send those to the task force. So these are things that are going to the task force. Unfortunately, their next meeting is not until August 26th, which I know is cutting it pretty close for harvest close. But I will provide an update immediately on August 27th for data managers that have specific questions related to these topics. I'll also provide a summary statement on our next webinar, just so everyone knows what the conclusion was on these topics. But the first topic that the task force is going to take up is a discussion on mirroring the exceptional risk exclusion process of adult cardiac for GTSD patients. So essentially, for those of you who aren't familiar with the ACSD process, you can submit in advance of your surgical procedure occurring a form to the STS indicating that your surgeon believes this patient is at exceptional risk and should be excluded. The case is still required from entry, but it's excluded from the analysis, is my understanding of how it works. The STS does all of that magic on the back end if the patient is indeed approved for exclusion. ACSD just started doing this recently, I believe. Is that right, Carol?
Yeah, I think Nancy can jump in.
Or Nancy?
Sorry, I wasn't.
No, it's okay.
You could take it, Nancy. Go ahead.
Okay, we started exceptional risk in June.
In June, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still fairly new to us. We're ironing out the process. We haven't gone through a harvest yet where we're excluding any cases, so we're still working out the details or not the details, but we're still working out the internal process for having the surgeons review the cases, what information is helpful to them in reviewing, and then relaying that information back to the sites. So it's still kind of a work in progress, and I think we're trying to work through this on ACSD before we bring it over to GTSD, but it is something on the up for discussion within the task force.
I know that many data managers have sent in patients to the FAQ inbox that they feel like would be reasonable for a similar scenario. So I just wanted to make everyone aware that there is conversation going on in the background about the process. A few months ago, a question was raised about the entry of pediatric patients into the GTSD. Currently, it allows for age range, I think, like 0 to 100 and something. I don't recall off the top of my head, but a pretty wide age range. And so the task force will make the final determination on whether or not the intent of the GTSD registry is to include the pediatric patient population. The third topic that the task force is going to be taking up is management of patients with incidentally therapeutic, I should have said lung resections here because this really only happens with lung cancer patients. So these are the patients where they were taken to the OR for a CABG, for example, and then they subsequently had a lung resection. And it turns out that the lung resection was a therapeutic lung cancer resection. Currently, the training manual indicates that those patients should be included and must be abstracted. I've gotten probably 6 to 8 examples in the last couple of months of scenarios where data managers and surgeons are questioning whether that really is the right path forward. This was hotly contested within the core group, and the task force will come up with a final determination, and we will have an answer on that one soon. So thank you everyone for your patience. I know that it's a really important topic, and we just want to give it all of the thought that it deserves before coming up with an answer on that one. So I think that is the end of my presentation.
Yeah, we've got several questions, so we can go ahead and hop into those, Ruth. Looks like the majority are so let's go ahead and hop into do you want to take this one from Patsy?
Yeah. I'm just pulling up the training manual.
I mean, if you need me to.
Can you pull up the training manual and share it? I think it's on about,
yeah.
It's on page 112, 113, the diagram that shows the staging for ground glass opacities.
I'm sorry, what page did you say?
I think it's page 113. It's gonna be 112 or 113.
Oh, go back. Go back.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
So in order to stage your ground glass nodule, you're going to need to use this diagram. So if it's completely ground glass, it's going to be in those first 2 columns there. So you'll look at the total tumor size, including the ground glass portion, and then it indicates like, is there a solid part or is there not a solid part? And then you can use this tool to come up with your clinical stage if your surgeon has not provided it for you. So if it's a completely ground glass nodule, it's going to be TIS, is going to be your clinical stage. There are notes, so you'll see that the total tumor size, including ground glass, it's 0.6 to 3.0 centimeters. And then there's like a little double cross after it. That's hard to see on the screen. But if you scroll down to the text that is underneath this picture, it corresponds to that second to last statement. If a pure ground glass nodule by CT or pure lipidic by pathological pattern is larger than 3 centimeters, it should be classified as T1A. Similarly, et cetera, et cetera. I won't read the whole thing to you, but you just pay attention to the symbols that follow the centimeters or other letters in the grid above.
All right. Let's see. Next from Mary, we have many patients who get was that an INO cath? I have no idea what that is. Sorry. And our PACU prior to being transferred to the floor if they do not void. This is PACU protocol, which is different from the protocol the surgeons support. Oh, where'd it go? For the ICU floor care. That's right. Should I count this as an adverse event?
Yes, Mary, this would be captured as urinary retention, which is not one of the major endpoints.
Yeah, it's like, you know, the non-clinical person reading a clinical report. It's very entertaining, I'm sure.
No, it's okay. I have a bad habit of clicking through the questions.
No, you're good.
And then I move the text for you. It's like a moving target.
I can take the next one. Public reporting for new resection for primary lung cancer composite measure. Are GTSD participants currently enrolled for public reporting for lobectomy composite required to complete the opt-in form for the new resection composite measure? Yes. So if you are currently enrolled in public reporting for the lobectomy composite and you would like to continue publicly reporting with the resection composite, you need to complete that opt-in form that was sent. The next one for you, Ruth, please explain about the mediastinal staging. You have line through D. A biopsy of lymph node tissue is required to code this option. The April 22 update was dealing with N1 nodes. How is this related?
I apologize if there was a typo in my grid. I will double check it.
Let's see. And the slide deck?
Yeah, I'll double check it. But essentially what we were trying to align is that there are, so in order to capture mediastinal staging, you no longer have to have a biopsy of the tissue. You simply had to evaluate the lymph nodes. So I think it was the November 2022 update. Did I say?
Yeah.
It should have been the November 22. The April 2022 update was already lined through. So what you're looking at is the November 2022 update, which says capture EBIS in all instances where EBIS is performed. This includes EBIS without biopsy, EBIS with a non-diagnostic biopsy, no lymphocytes present, and EBIS of N1 and or N2 nodes. So 5D did not align with that November 2022 update because it said a biopsy of tissue was required in order to capture that, and it no longer was required after November of 2022. So we were just cleaning that piece up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the next question was about the
2100.
margins.
Yeah.
If your patient, yes, if your patient has a wedge resection and the margins are positive, and so the surgeon does a completion lobectomy, you will code that the margins are negative at the end of the procedure.
All right.
Because it is a completion lobectomy. So the scenario that we were talking about earlier was sort of like if you have multiple primary tumors in the lungs, let's just say you have 2 right upper lobe lung tumors, and they resect both of them, wedge resections or whatever, and the margin of one of those resections is positive, and there's no additional resection that occurs during that trip to the OR, you are going to code that you have positive margins. If your surgeon has a positive margin, and then in the same case, goes back and takes more tissue to get a negative margin, then you will call the negative margin.
Awesome. All right, next question. Let's see. Paul, here's one for you. We recently began direct data entry into IQVIA. Could you please clarify whether these cases must be marked complete in IQVIA to be included in Harvest?
Yeah, the short answer is no. Any record you put into IQVIA is going to be included, sent over for analysis. So you don't have to. But the thing to remember, though, is that the purpose of that button to say that the record is complete is to allow you to enter half of the record and still be able to save it. There's a lot of stuff out there that is required, that you can't save the record as complete without providing that information. So you can save the record without it, but you can't save it as complete. So it's kind of a safeguard. It's that the purpose of it is to allow you to save the record when you only have half of the information while you go try to get the rest of the information. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that all of your data is checked off as complete so that all of the system edit checks run on it so that you're made aware of any missing data or any issues that are there in the data. So getting back to the short answer, no. Doesn't matter whether it's checked or not, it's going to analysis, but it's in your best interest to make sure that they're all checked as complete.
Right. All right, let's see here. Will everyone be provided an update on the task force discussions? Yes, as these topics were related to your clinical questions. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay, see, per the email sent out, it states we are not required to submit a consent. Okay, public reporting questions. I am not an expert, especially for the other question. We have a new site for the database. Do I have to opt in for public reporting? Or does our contract we sign with STS okay, so you're a new site, so I do know the answer to this one 100% certain. So if you're a new site for the database, you've signed an agreement with STS, you've signed your contract, your participation agreement. If you want to participate in public reporting, you need to complete the STS public reporting consent form. Here, let me go here. So let me show you. So from the STS website, for research and data, oops, let me scoot over here to public reporting, STS public reporting page. Look on the STS public reporting site. And you'll get all your information here. And actually under the resources up here is the consent form. So here is the consent form. As a new site who's just signed a participation agreement with STS, you need to sign a GTSD data sharing public reporting consent form. So Donna, in regards to per the email that was sent out, please, if you're not sure if you need to do that or not, please email Sydney with STS public reporting. I believe there's a link in that communication that was sent. There is a link to contact Sydney via public reporting related questions. So if you could please email Sydney and team directly for all the public reporting related questions. So Catherine, is there anyone on the call that I could speak with who has 2 to 3 day length of stay for lobectomies in their program? So Catherine, if you want, yeah, and Emily put Sydney's the public reporting email in the chat. So it's publicreporting@sts.org. So again, please send all your public reporting questions to Sydney and team at publicreporting@sts.org. Thank you, Emily. And Catherine, again, you may want to put your email in the Q&A and then I'll just copy it over to the chat. And if anybody wants to follow up with you directly, they can just email you. And then did the public reporting email go out to the primary contact? I was notified by my surgeon to consent to it. I never received an email on it. Dion, I think it was sent to the primary data and file contact as well as the surgeon representative. But again, email Sydney and team at publicreporting@sts.org and she'll follow up with you directly. And Catherine has supplied her email. Oh, Donna, I think Donna just put the, Kathy, I put your email in the chat box. So if anyone has that 2 to 3 day length of stay for the lobectomies, reach out to Catherine. Let's see. Not required. Okay, yeah, so you're not required. So if you're currently enrolled in public reporting, you're not required to submit a new consent form. But you have to opt into the resection public reporting. So if you have a public reporting consent on file with STS right now for GTSD, you do not have to complete another GTSD data sharing consent form here. You can opt in via that link that was sent in that communication for the resection composite. I hope that makes sense.
And I would say just follow up with Sydney. Sydney is the
Yeah.
public reporting staff member. She knows everything about public reporting.
Yeah.
So I just want to, I know that
Yeah.
she would probably prefer to hear about any questions for public reporting directly to her.
Yeah, because if there's any confusion, please reach out to Sydney. She can, if you are, only 98% sure that you're good to go, contact her.
Still contact her.
Yeah, I don't have access to any of the consents or anything like that. So just please reach out to Sydney and her team at Public Reporting, and they will get back to you.
Yep.
All right. We are about 6 minutes over. That was a great call today, guys. So if you have any other questions prior to, oops, let me get this off of here. So if you have any questions prior to harvest close, again, we know it's coming up September 6th. Please submit your questions via the FAQ. If you have any questions about uploading or anything like that, please reach out to us at stsdb_helpdesk@sts.org. Mark your calendars. Our monthly webinars, our September 11th call is canceled because we will be at AQO. And then we'll pick back up with our October 9th webinar. And then again, that quality improvement series, our kickoff call is scheduled for August 29th at 3 p.m. Eastern. Marketing, we'll be sending out more communications about that and getting the calendar invite out to you. So more information about that quality improvement call coming out very soon. All right. I think that's all that I've got for today. Anybody else have anything? All right. No, thank you, Mary. Well, thanks everybody for joining the call today. I hope it was helpful. This webinar obviously is recorded and the slides will be posted out on the STS website, hopefully within the next several days, probably or maybe by early next week. Our marketing team has to clean things up and then get it all posted out on the website. So thank you everyone for joining the call today. Thank you, Ruth, for a great presentation, great info. Greatly appreciated. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks STS team for joining. Oh, Tammy, do you have I saw Tammy just raise her hand really quickly, but I think she put it back down. So thank you everybody for joining. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week and we will see you. I'll see you in person at AQO for everybody joining. Look forward to seeing you there. So thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day.